From now on, Minister Hayashi regular press conference will begin. Minister, the floor is yours.
I have one point to make. Well, today, regarding WTO e-commerce negotiation, joint chair statement was issued. As I said today, regarding WTO e-commerce negotiation, joint chair statement was issued, and Japan, Australia, and Singapore related state ministers had issued the joint chair statement. For e-commerce area whose importance is growing amid the pandemic, the statement is very significant as it affirms the progress made in negotiation and purports to converge views on majority of points by the end of 2022, laying down a pathway toward agreement. MC12 was postponed, but e-commerce negotiation is one of the most important area in WTO. Aiming to make further progress in next year's negotiation, it's important to accumulate outcomes. Also, the realization of DAFT, data free flow with trust, proposed by Japan, is extremely important. From this viewpoint, as a co-convener of the negotiation, Japan would like to embrace as many participating countries as possible and work toward a high-level rulemaking, including liberalization of data flow and accelerate the negotiation. Thank you.
We'll take questions now. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Please be recognized. Go to the nearest microphone. State your name and affiliation before you ask a question. Anyone? Chiba-san, please. Sankei Shimbun newspaper, Chiba. Thank you. Last week, a democracy summit took place, and advanced technology that can be abused for security issues. 4 countries initiated a human rights initiative. So going forward, Japanese government didn't participate in this. What was the reason for that?
Yes. At the summit for the democracies, US, Australia, Denmark, and Norway had come up with a joint statement committing to make a code of conduct on the export control on technology used for the human rights violation. Of course, Japan has been working closely with allies such as the United States and like-minded countries on grave cases of human rights violation. We, of course, agree with the motive of a U.S. proposal. However, on the other hand, we are perusing the contents carefully now, so we are not taking part at this time, but we'll continue considering our responses based on the future discussion.
The next question, please. Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper, Yoda is my name. Recently, at the Diet deliberation, Prime Minister Kishida said that a revision of the SDF Act is necessary, including the rescues of Japanese nationals. So as a foreign minister, what sort of awareness do you have, please?
Yes, thank you. Large number of Japanese people are working overseas. When they are faced with a crisis, it's a country's responsibility to make all out efforts to help Japanese people to be protected and evacuate. And MOFA will make all-out efforts to ensure safety of the Japanese overseas. And the Prime Minister instructed Ministry of Defense, based on the Afghanistan cases the other day, to look into the SDF law, Article 84(4), how it can be improved regarding the transport of the Japanese overseas. For details, please ask MOD, but we would cooperate for the consideration of this matter.
The next question, please. Mabiro of Asahi Shimbun newspaper about Beijing Winter Games. Minister Hayashi, up to this point, regarding a diplomatic boycott, you said you'd make a decision at an appropriate timing. Within both ruling and opposition parties, Japan should clarify its stance as soon as possible. Regarding such voices, what is your assessment on them? And also, appropriate timing, when is it, please?
Yes. Well, with regard to the Beijing Winter Games, responses by Japanese government going forward at appropriate timing, taking into consideration comprehensively, the decision will be made. At any rate, based on the intent and spirit of the Olympics and Paralympics, we hope that Beijing Winter Olympics will be conducted as a festival for peace.
Next question, please. Azuhari-san.
Azhari, Pan Orange News, Arab News Japan. My question is about your meetings at J7 in the latest trip. I am wondering if you discussed the situation in the Middle East there and also in Afghanistan and the Iranian nuclear issue, and did you reach any conclusion on that? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. At the G7 Foreign Minister and Development Ministers meeting, we had a candid discussion on the Middle Eastern situation, inclusive of Afghanistan and Iran. For the Afghanistan, we concur the importance of strengthening our responses given the worsening of the human rights crisis through non-state channels as well as providing support of basic services. And also the politics with inclusiveness and representativeness, particularly women and girls and the minorities' human rights need to be respected. And also have to make possible the safer transport of people who would like to exit from that country and respond to the terrorism, and the involvement of the Taliban will be made into a centerpiece. So we concurred on that. On the Iran, we welcome as a G7 the resumption of negotiation on nuclear agreement in Vienna. But we concur that Iran has to stop expansion of the nuclear activities and promptly conclude the agreement.
Next question, please. Thank you very much. IWJ Hamamoto is my name. Thank you very much. Minister Hayashi, on the 13th, the Budget Committee deliberation, Mr. Takaichi Sanae, Policy Research Council Chair, the Japanese politicians expressing views, assuming the contingency occurs on Taiwan Strait or Japan getting ready for such a contingency. Does that constitute meddling in the domestic affairs of China? This is an important issue not just for Japan but also the international community. So expressing a view doesn't constitute intervention in domestic affairs. That was your answer. But Mr. Takaichi's question, former Prime Minister Abe said that Taiwan contingency is Japan's contingency. So Taiwan-China relationship, this symposium took place in Taiwan, and this remark was made there. So this contingency basically means a war. So Taiwan and China and the U.S. forces and Japan's SDF would be engaged in such a warfare. So Taiwan Strait is not the only area where war takes place, but self-defense forces bases in Japan and so on could be targeted as well. So Taiwan contingency is Japan's contingency. Such a remark, if Taiwan and China are engaged in war, Japan would be involved in that. It sounds like it. So you giving affirmation to that will be sending a message to the world that Japan will participate in the war. So because of such remarks, the Japan-China diplomacy would be compromised to a great deal. How would you take responsibility? What is your view on that? And I also have a follow-up question. On the 11th, in the UK, Liverpool, Beatles Street Museum, you had a G7 foreign ministers dinner, and Mr. Hayashi, you played a John Lennon song. And this denies war, and this is about creating the world without war or borders. So Sino-US confrontation and Japan-China confrontation. What's your view on this?
Yes, with regard to the peace and the stability of Taiwan Strait, of course, it is very important not only for the Japan's security but also for the stability of the international community. And also, Japanese government's consistent stance on this is the peaceful resolution through dialogue of the problems pertaining to Taiwan. Of course, recognition that peace and stability of Taiwan Strait is important is growing in its international community as well. As I said at the Diet, it's not only for Japan, but this is also an important issue for the international community. And to express a legitimate concern does not constitute interfering in other countries' internal affairs. Also, at the G7 meeting, at the dinner time, prior to the dinner, we were at the Beatles Story Museum. There was a room of John Lennon, and round glasses that John Lennon used to wear was exhibited in that room when he was alive. And there was a white piano on which John Lennon played Imagine. And a replica was exhibited in the room, and all the members were trying to take the group photo. And someone said, why don't someone sit before the piano and one can play the piano if you like? And I myself is a great fan of Beatles, so I took my courage and I played a part of Imagine on the piano. As for the lyrics of the Imagine, of course, what you said is true. And that's one of the songs that I like very much. Thank you.
The next question, please, Abun-san. Hokkaido Shimbun newspaper, Abun is my name. About Northern Territory is a visa-free exchange. I have a question. Next year marks the 30th anniversary since the start of this. What is the significance and outcome of this? About a visa-free exchange, what is the significance and outcome, please?
Yes, what is called the exchange without visa. Of course, this is a four-country exchange program. It was initiated until the peace treaty conclusion issues are resolved. The time will be spent to promote the mutual understanding between Japan and Russia, inclusive of the resolution of the Northern Territorial issue. And we hope that this exchange would contribute to the resolution of the issue this year and last year. Because of the pandemic, this program was not able to be implemented. But as a result of the four island exchanges, so far cumulatively about 25,000 people had made visits. Steadily, there was a promotion of mutual understanding amongst Japanese people and the residents of northern four countries, northern four islands. So its significance is great. We would like to coordinate so that we can early resolve the issue.
Abun-san, again, please. I have a follow-up question regarding a Northern Territory issue. Promoting understanding at the Russian side, there doesn't seem to be too much morale of returning Northern Islands to Japan. So has it been possible to achieve such a purpose of this exchange? So what is the challenge after 30 years? What is your view on this, please?
Yes, as I said to you before, with regard to the four island exchanges between Japanese people and the residents of four islands, steadily the mutual understanding have been promoted. So in that sense, as for the Northern Territorial issue, it's a pending issue, not resolved yet, but this is the biggest pending issue between Japan and Russia, so we will patiently attend to the issue. That's our view.
The next question, please. Higuchi-san. 中国新聞 newspaper, Higuchi. It will be only 3 weeks until the NPT Review Conference is held. Conventionally, traditionally, you have been saying that outcome should be produced. You have a stronger resolve. And last week, at a public and private sector meeting, the Prime Minister said that transparency of nuclear weapons should be strengthened, so he showed a stronger resolve once again. So at this point in time, Minister yourself, are you going to attend the meeting yourself to send a stronger message? Is there a prospect for that? and producing outcome is very difficult based upon the current international situation. So what sort of a specific approach are you going to pursue these 2 points, please?
NPT.
Of course, NPT is a cornerstone of this nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation internationally. The NPT Review Conference participated by nuclear weapon states is an important opportunity for making advances in the world without nuclear weapon. We are still considering who will attend from Japan. In order to advance nuclear disarmament, both nuclear weapon states and non-nuclear weapon states have to get involved and get engaged. So at the UN General Assembly, government submitted the draft proposal on the abolition of nuclear weapon. By concretely presenting guidelines for joint activities as an international community, we have been calling for the future-oriented dialogue, making the joint foundation. At the previous meeting held in 2015, 6 years ago, gaps were left amongst the 11 countries in establishing non-WMD zone in Middle East, so that no final document was able to be adopted. But next review conference toward making the world without a nuclear weapon, we hope significant results can be gained through coordination with relevant countries.
Maeda-san, please. Kyodo News, Maeda. Regarding Omicron variant impacting in-person diplomacy, ever since the advent of Omicron variant, WTO and G7 or ASEAN countries participated through virtual means. So this Omicron variant's impact on diplomacy, what is your assessment? And given the current situation, how are you going to approach your diplomatic activities?
Yeah, with regard to the pandemic, how it would impact on the individual diplomatic schedules, I cannot make any comment because I don't like to be prejudicial. But having said that, meeting face-to-face with the important persons of foreign countries and take good time discussing the issues faced by the international community and deepen the understanding is very important. Particularly, I recognize that to my heart at the G7 meeting. At any rate, based on countries' border and quarantine measures inclusive of Japan, we will appropriately deal with it.
Anything else? Okay. With that, I'd like to conclude today's press conference. Thank you very much.